Welcome to a tour of the Property Investor System, UK's most comprehensive and powerful property investor system. You can see here, this is the Deal Analyzer. This helps you work out whether or not you've got a good deal or a bad deal, and you see it's broken into buying strategy as well as profit strategy. This is the only software in the UK that allows you to analyze multiple different strategies. It's not just a calculator that'll do traditional lease or buy and hold investing. It actually has 14 different calculators, and it can do anything from installment contracts, lease options, second mortgage carrybacks, joint venture agreements, whether you do renovations, or even just traditional rent-to-own or lease, buy and hold strategy. You can see every single different strategy it has. It's the only one of its kind that can do this, and it simply allows you to select what sort of transaction you might be doing. It might be a first mortgage only with a lease option, and what we'll do, you click on that button, it will take you to the most appropriate deal analyzer for that transaction. You can basically put in what you're buying it for, what you're selling it for, all your interest rates, whether or not you've got a honeymoon rate, if the stamp duty is included in the buy price, every single different variation that you might have. You can put in a really simple deal where it might only be a couple of things you're putting in, or it can take up really complex deals that you might be doing out in the marketplace. And every single transaction, down the bottom here, it's always going to tell you the exact same thing. It's going to have an investment summary that tells you how much money is going out of your pocket, but also how much money is coming in. So how much money you're going to have left in the deal or in the transaction. It also has an analysis section, so you can see exactly how much cash flow you're going to make, what your profit is at the end of the day when you sell the property, but also the all-important what cash on cash or return on investment you're going to get. Once you have finished analyzing your transaction, you can click the Save button. That'll save the transaction into the My Portfolio or Portfolio section. It basically gives you a bit of a view here of all the different transactions that you've done. I'm just going to click on this one. It's a bit of a hyperlink. If you click that, it'll bring up the details of the deal when you entered it, so you can see what you bought it for. In this case, what you might be renting it out for, all the details of the loan, how much the stamp duty was. For this one, because it's a buy and hold, how much your fittings and fixtures were, how much depreciation you're getting, and down the bottom you can see what your outgoings were, what your incomings were, before and after tax incomes, all of your deductions, so your cash deductions, it'll show you all your non-cash deductions, and also the all-important equity. So you can see exactly how your investment is going to increase over time. You can see here you've got year 1, year 3, year 10. You can change that to whatever time horizon you want and just see how it affects the deal as you go over time. It'll produce this for all different types. For example, here we've got a traditional lease option scenario. You can see that the deal analyzer is slightly different depending on the type of transaction that you're doing. As this is a lease option, it's going to have things like your rent and your ongoing option payment, the option fees, all the different terminology that are applicable for this type of transaction. And down the bottom here, we can see how much stamp duty was. It'll do the calculations for the stamp duty, all the land titles and transfer fees. It works those fees out for you when you enter the deal, and I can safely see how much money I've got going out, how much I've got coming in from my lease option buyer, so how much money I've got left in the transaction. I can see what sort of cash flow I'm getting, what my back-end profit is, so how much money I'm going to get when my buyer cashes me out after year 1, year 2, year 3, and also what sort of return on my equity or my investment I'm actually getting. When you do this and you save it, it'll track your entire portfolio for you in real time, in the My Portfolio section. If we go back up here to the Portfolio section, you can see that it'll show you what sort of cash flow you've received, what sort of money you're yet to receive, so unrealized capital growth, capital gains. The real important one, especially for buy and hold investors out there, is the return on equity. All that money you've got tied up in those properties, what sort of return you're actually getting on that. It's a really important figure for those sort of people. And the other one here is your cash flow. Are you at a negative point or you're at a positive? And maybe you're able to leave your job, depending on what the level your cash flow is up to, as well as all your averages. And it allows you to keep track of them, whether or not they're just a pending deal. something you're just working on, or it's a fully active deal and you want it to be tracked. The Property Investor System also has a fully customized customer relationship manager for property investors. You can see here in the My Sellers section, this allows you to keep track of all those sellers, or it might be real estate agents. You might be looking at, say, 10 houses, and rather than putting it all on a bit of paper or an Excel spreadsheet, this allows you to keep track of all those in one location. So you can add a seller, or this might be a real estate agent's details, and you can put in all the details about the house, where it is, bedrooms, bathrooms, land size. If it's got a link to a real estate listing online, it's got it all in there. Their motivation levels, everything you might want to know about that property, so that you can save it for future reference. It also allows, you'll see here, marketing details. What you can do, if you do any advertising to get this lead, you might put a newspaper ad in or put a sign out for people to call you. You can link to your seller where you got them, so you can keep track of where all your sellers are coming from. And I'll show you the marketing manager in just a moment. Coming down a little bit further, it's got a contact manager. Every time you speak to someone, you can keep an update of where you're up to with them. So you may speak to them on the phone, or face-to-face, or an email, and you can just put in what you spoke about and what happened in that conversation, so you know you're up to date. And you'll have here a log of everything you've spoken about with this transaction. You can see how it happened, so you can come back. And it doesn't matter if you've got 5 houses you're looking at or 105 houses. You can keep track of every single one. A really cool thing here, a really handy tool, is the scheduled follow-up. This is like having your own personal assistant. You can say, look, I need to give this person a call in a couple of days' time. And you can set an email reminder. And the system will, on that day, send you an email with the person's name, phone number, everything you need to know to be able to give them a call. So you'll just get an email in the morning saying, hey, here's all the people you need to call, and here's what you need to call them about. So you can put that into the system, and it'll keep track of all your transactions for you. Now, going back, when you put them into the system, you can put them through your own pipeline, your own sales pipeline. This is fully customizable. So this is just a dummy one, where it might be, you have initial inquiry, talk to them again, the second contact. You then might enter a heads of agreement contract, and then take possession. Whatever your sales pipeline is, you can put that in there. That's fully editable by clicking the Add Edit Pipeline, and you can put them through your own pipeline, so you know what you're up to with each transaction as well. Especially if you've got quite a few. You might have 10 or 110 properties that you've looked at before you've actually purchased. You can do a search criteria to find all the property. Out of 110, you might want to know which ones have equity between 10% to 20%, or how many days they've been in the system, or how motivated they were when you originally spoke to them. You can export all those people to, say, Excel, or show them in the system, and you can just give them a call back. And maybe you can do something with them, so it just allows you to search for all the people in the database as well. It also does this sort of relationship with clients as well. Whether it be a buyer or tenant, you can click here to qualify or add in a client. What this will do, if you've got a property that you might be putting on a lease to buy, or it just might be a traditional tenant, and you need to work and whether or not they can actually afford the property you're putting them in. You can put in how much the payments are for the property, and then you can put in what their income is. So let's say it's 2 applicants. We click Add Applicant. You can put in what their income is, before or after tax. Some people, when they're talking to you, they might know how much money they're getting in the bank account, which is obviously after tax. So rather than you trying to convert it back, the system allows you to put in before or after tax figures, and it works it all out for you. As soon as you hit Calculate down the bottom here, this little assessment, these lights will either go green if they can afford it, orange if it's borderline, or red if they can't. So you don't even need to look at the figures or work anything out. You can literally do this so quickly that you can do this while you're on the phone to the person and quickly work out whether or not they can afford it. This section, as we went through before, does have the contact manager and the scheduled follow-up, so you can always schedule in your follow-ups with people if you need to contact them at a later stage. It also has the similar pipeline that you can customize just for your own clients or tenants you're putting into your property, and do a full search function. A lot of our clients use this search function to export to CSV or Excel so that they can do, say, an email blast or an SMS blast to those people if they get a new property that might come available that might suit them. The next section you've got here is the Contact Manager. So every time you add a contact in, it'll list here every single contact that you've got, so you can see where you're up to with each one of your transactions. Also in this section are the Scheduled Follow-up tabs. You'll be able to see for the next 30 days, or 30 to 60 days, or 90 days plus, what sort of calls you need to make, so you can come in here and have a bit of a look at what you've got coming up in the next month or so, who you need to contact, and what you need to do. The last section I want to quickly show you here is the Marketing Manager. This is for those investors out there that do advertising, whether it be advertising to get sellers or buyers. There's a seller's campaign and a client campaign. What you can do is you can put in the information. This one, we've got newspaper ads, signs, and internet. So when you enter a client, whether it be a seller or a new real estate agent into the system, you can say where they called from. If you do a newspaper ad looking for sellers, then you can link that seller back to the newspaper ad. Why this is really powerful is you can see where all your leads are coming from, and you can see how effective any marketing you're doing is. And more importantly, you can see what the value is per lead. This really helps you work out what's the best marketing to do, but also where all your leads are coming from, and helps you keep track of it as well. There's also, you'll see here, a Tutorials tab. In there is individual tutorials on how to use each individual section. It's quite intuitive and quite easy to use. But we have detailed video tutorials very similar to this one on how to use each section. So what I invite you to do now, as a new feature we've got, is to try now for £1, is that you can try this software unlimited access for 30 days, for only £1. And you can make sure it does everything that you want it to do, no matter what sort of property investor you are. So I invite you now to click the Try Now for £1 button and have a look for yourself. Happy investing and good luck.